Hey now. It's the Hey Now Howard podcast. First and only podcast dedicated to the motherfucking king of all media, Howard Stern, and all things Howard Stern Show. I'm Daniel Corn.
And my name is Tyler Cortad, and today we're going to be talking about Dun 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 Marci Turk.
This is Beto. He's as bad as can. He knows he's the best. This is Beto. He's as bad as can. He knows he's the best. This is Beto.
Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode. We started to do this thing where we kind of like to single out a single person from the show, whether it be Robin, Fred, sometimes Artie, or even former staff members, and it just kind of makes it easier to kind of, collect our thoughts about how Howard viewed them, how we view them as an audience. I just think it's kind of interesting kind of doing these little short form episodes. But today is an interesting one because we're talking about somebody who is very rarely talked about on the show. Almost, you would say that there's a ban on talking about this person on the show, and that is Marci Turk, SiriusXM's COO of the Howard Stern Show. Now, I admittedly don't know much about this. If you go into Reddit, you can find a whole bunch of shit about Marci Turk. I haven't looked at it as much as Daniel has, but so this is going to be me mainly asking Daniel questions about this woman, what her role is, and what people think her role is, because as far as the show is concerned and what Howard conveys to us is nothing. We know nothing about her, so we are only left to do our own research and hear what other former staff members have said about her. So I'll kind of open up to Dan to kind of give a brief little overview about who she is, what she's doing for the show, and how she got there.
Oh yeah, I'm deep in the weeds in the Reddit
my
trolls.
God, you should see his notes right now. I looked at it. He looks like a serial killer. He's got like just notes scattered all out throughout the table, piecing together. I'm surprised he doesn't have a clip, with the darts all up on the board.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to put together the JFK assassination. My own research here.
Yeah, that's
the reason I say that is because there's so little information involved with such an influential character on the show. And it's interesting that the Howard Stern Show is about honesty. It's one of the first shows that brought the back office staff into the show. Right. Talks about, beyond Robin, Fred, and Gary. We could go on forever. Sal, Richard, all these staff members that, yeah, they do their job, but also Monday comes around, hey, what'd you do this weekend? Or, tell us about the Tinder date you went on for Steve Brandano.
Right.
We're part of their lives and with the Whack Pack, and there's so many characters you could call them.
Yeah, nobody's off limits. There's been nobody off limits.
His parents, wives. He used to have his mom call in and ask about anal with her dad.
Right.
His dad.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing off limits on this show, at least supposedly.
Sal's wife had a fucking affair, emotional affair, and that was a whole bit on the show for weeks. Right. You know what I mean? That's like somebody's wife. So yeah, there's been really nothing that's been off limits. To our eyes, at least, and ears, from the show until now.
Till Marci
came around.
So Marci's kind of like she's very if you look in Reddit, she's like the Antichrist. And she's,
yeah, right. Yeah,
she's pretty much zoomed in.
I'm terrified of every Reddit user that posts as much as them.
And if you don't know, you probably know what Reddit is, but we refer to it often on this show because it's kind of become the hub of people talking bluntly about the show, people talking about how the show is not as good as it used to be and what they want the show to become, and always posting clips about it's pretty much like a lot of hate on there.
Pretty much 99% hate.
But yet you can still tell that these people listen to every episode because all they talk about is how they hate the show, but yet they know all these details of every show that still airs.
It's pretty pathetic. Their usernames would be like, Jojo dell'abate, they're just like
Joey Boots,
Joey Boots, yeah, exactly. There's always they're obsessed with the show, but they're obsessed with hating on the show.
Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting topic. Do you think that the Stern Show is kind of something that the fans want? Everyone has a different idea of what they want the show to be, or they want the show to be their favorite era.
Yeah. People seem to be very passionate about what era they think is the best, or what how they think the Howard Stern Show should be in their eyes. And if it doesn't meet that potential, it seems like Howard said it a couple weeks ago. He's like, I have the worst fans. Mm-hmm. I have the worst. And he does in a way, because they're so quick to, if it's not the show that they see in their eyes or the show that they heard in 1994, Howard's a sellout. Howard is a Hollywood. He's the worst. The show's a piece of shit. And so they're very passionate about that. I don't share that viewpoint, but if you look on Reddit and all these things that they're saying, there seems to be a point in time where things shifted, and it's obviously whenever he came to Sirius. And Howard talks about why he's transformed and how he's done it, but there's an ulterior motive that the Reddit users seem to think that shift happened, and that reason is Marci Turk.
Yeah. Well, just to clarify, it was a bit after he came to Sirius, because if you remember when he first came to Sirius, then that was probably the raunchiest the show has ever been.
Right, that first couple years.
Yeah. Artie was still on. Yeah, they're constantly bringing strippers on and still doing the Sibian and all this stuff. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, Sibian.
Yeah.
We should get all that poison out.
Comfort belly.
That's the grossest clip in that whole dude.
Raven or something. But then, and Howard said this before, you can only throw so much baloney on strippers' asses before you got to start to expand a little bit.
Right.
And
Howard's
getting
fun
older.
For him whenever he wasn't allowed to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Now that he's able to do these things, it's not that shock value anymore.
Right.
And now it's just kind of, especially when they first went to Sirius, there wasn't as much uncensored content as there is now. Now with YouTube and social media, every podcast is uncensored and you can find whatever you want. But that was really kind of a game changer, especially with his fans that have listened forever of, wouldn't the show be great if we could really hear it uncensored?
Sure.
I mean, there was Howard TV, but even that I think was like curated to like hour episodes. It wasn't the entire show.
Right, exactly.
So Marci Turk comes in. She's the COO.
When was that?
2012.
Okay.
So I think he went to Sirius, 2002?
No, 2005.
Okay, 2005. Yeah. So, again, he kind of, and this was after Artie era and all that, so it kind of started to take a little bit of a shift more towards the long-form interviews, more towards getting guests that he wouldn't have been able to get previously. And all things point to Marci being a huge influence in that.
In what way, though? Like, I mean, because she came in as the COO of the show immediately?
No. So to give you a little bit of background, so their main connection, there's this book called Getting Things Done. Basically, it's a book about organizing your life, organizing your personal life, your work life, your thoughts, being more efficient, which Howard is a big fan of.
You read it, right?
Yeah. I've read this book. And I didn't join a cult after I read it. Let's just clear that. It's just a regular book.
Yeah, just a book. Okay.
But it has a popular, so they'll have conventions, and the author, let me find it here. The author basically has coach. David Allen is the name of the author.
Okay.
And so he sets up conventions, and he has people that work for him, basically as advisors that help organize these companies and bring that kind of GM mentality of basically auditing the workflow and how do we make this more efficient. I've noticed this and this inefficiencies that we need to change. Right. So I think this was, and Howard's always talks about, even though the show's kind of chaotic, he's not.
Right.
And so I think he kind of appreciates the Richard pissing his pants at a concert or whatever Tinder dates the staff went on that weekend, but he knows that's not him. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is all an effort of him wanting to mold the show back into kind of his style of very organized, knows what he wants to say, whereas before it was getting a little bit chaotic.
Yeah.
And I think he always also wanted like a GM figure that will fire somebody.
So he wouldn't have to do it pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there was so many staff. We've seen it with Benji throughout the years and multiple other staffers that have kind of, like Sal was caught jerking off in the bathroom and still kept his job. Like there was some really controversial that 99% of people would have got fired for.
Right.
And I think now he has that figure of, hey, go talk to Marci. That's out of my hands. I'm just the host of the show.
Interesting. Do you think that the staff use it as kind of like a cop out? Like, what the fuck, man? Like, we were working for you, not for this company, or not for the, or
exactly. So interesting. Okay. Oh, sorry, go on.
No. I just was saying to counter that, or is this how it should have been run in the first place?
Right. So to kind of finish that, so Howard read the book, Getting Things Done, reached out to the author David Allen personally, and said, "Love the book. I would love to have someone come in with your influence." And then he referred Marci because Marci was working with him as a coach, quote unquote, like
Gotcha.
basically a small business business consultant. And looking at her LinkedIn, because I'm a creep, and I searched for her. I mean, here's her experience. Professional coach 1 year in 2005, executive coach for Merrill Lynch 1 year, financial advisor 1 year, another financial advisor 2 years, and then consultant for
companies
David
or just
Allen.
like
New York Life,
Okay.
Merrill Lynch, but a bunch of financial and small business consulting, and now she's heading up the most successful radio show of all time. There's a little bit of a disconnect
There's
there.
a gap there.
And so when Howard first started thinking of this, I want someone, and maybe he likes the fact that she's not from radio and she doesn't know that world.
Yeah,
and
she's
she's
a
just
business
bringing
approach.
that. Exactly.
Right.
She's just that X's and O's. This person's not cutting it. This person needs promoted.
Yeah, but
Stuff that he doesn't need to worry about.
Yeah, I get it, but that you just mentioned like a 5-year work resume so far. To go.
Oh, this shit came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say
she's like in her late to mid 30s.
Holy shit!
I mean, she's way the junior of Gary and Fred and Robin, and
it's gotta be
they've probably been
infuriating
on
for some people.
Exactly. So to that point, and this is coming from a Wall Street Journal article, so this isn't just like rumor. He had talked to her about coming on, started kind of talking with her in 2011, and then was going to bring her on, and then before he did, December 2012. Howard called an all-staff meeting at the Sirius building and basically just laid into them for being unorganized, sloppy, talked about their dress code. He said, you look like a bunch of homeless people. And this is from the accounts of the people that were there that then leaked what the topic was.
Right.
And straight up said, I'm bringing someone in as an advisor that's going to clean up our process. And, there's basically going to be a new sheriff in town. Didn't mention Marci by name at that time.
Right.
And famously, Gary raised his hand, and mind you, he's been working for the show for over 30 years at this point, and says, does that mean that I now report into Marci, or now report into the new hire?
Yeah.
And Howard, quote, said, actually, Gary, yes, you do report to her.
Holy shit.
And so that can't be...
Oh, I'm sure that they had a fucking mutiny going on at the bar afterwards with all the staffers. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. But that's the thing. It's at the bar. No one's going to say anything about it.
But yeah, because no one wants to lose their fucking job. They have a fucking great job. So and they didn't really know what it was going to be like and how much it would actually change. Mm-hmm. Now, so far from what you've said so far, it's like, there's a new sheriff in town. Things are going to change around here, but there's never. I mean, it doesn't seem like you really said besides their dress code and their lackadaisical attitude, that it doesn't sound like things are going to really change as far as their day to day. Like, okay, you're getting a whole shit ton of a new workload or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's not like, I'm quitting over this yet. To me, I haven't heard anything that bad. Yep.
So then to continue with this timeline, some of the first changes that she made. Changed all the art in the studio. They used even in the hallways. They used to have funny and crude pictures of the staff and just random pictures. Took all those down, put artwork up everywhere. Installed a dress code, which if you watch through the app now, Gary has his blazer on.
Yeah, who used to wear a hoodie every day.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's like business casual at the least.
Right. And Howard too. So at least Howard's at least subscribed to it as well, because now he's in full, not suit, but
he used to be in a cutoff and sweatpants.
Hoodie. Yeah, he was like Bill Belichick back there with the cutoff hoodie.
Yeah, so she just continued to bring that kind of GM mentality, and then there's this other story about how Gary always wanted a bigger office and always would bitch about how small his office is, and then Marci got the biggest office as soon as she started. So again, you've been there 30 years.
That's something that would fucking drive me
early 30s consultant comes in and she's now your boss of the whole thing.
Fuck, dude. That's something that would drive me nuts. The office thing would, if I was Gary, at least that would drive me insane. But he seems to take it all in stride.
Yeah. And another person that we'll be mentioning is the name Jeremy. So that's another person that gets tied into her efforts a lot. He's currently the senior VP of the show. He was hired in 2013, so right after Marci.
Okay.
And I think both of those are they work together as the GM type.
Oh,
he's from Sirius, so he had a radio background.
He's not from that book.
No, that was just Marci.
Do you think that Marci came in just pretty much preaching her coaching from the book? This is what is that?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what it was.
So I guess
that's why people view it as a culty type deal because like she comes in and she's like, oh, you need to abide by these rules. Do that. I wonder what like but I can't see her just coming in and doing that and Howard just being like giving her carte blanche to just do it. I feel like that she would still run this shit by Howard. Or do you think he was just kind of like hands off, do your thing, I'll sit back and...
I think she kind of pitched him and like told him, hey, this is what I think about your show. Like, here's what we could be doing. And then maybe even illustrated the points of, I mean, you have staff members that have been late 50 times that you haven't fired yet. And this thing's all about, you know, organizing yourself and being on time and being ready to work.
But do you think, like, I'm just looking at the artwork thing. Do you think she was like, hey, if we replace this shit with like real artwork, people will feel more comfortable here and you'll have a better... I'm just like...
Yeah, for her perspective, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
This is all... So, again, this all comes back... And even the Wall Street Journal, the headline is the woman behind Howard Stern. But then, like, the sub-headline is Marci Turk is credited with making the shock jock just a bit softer as part of his strategy to get celebrity interviews. Some fans aren't happy.
Right.
So that's exactly what we're talking about in a nutshell.
Exactly.
Hey, this might have got him closer towards the Hillary Clinton interview that we just saw last year. But, you know, aren't a lot of fans of Howard into that, like rock and roll, like let's just let it rip?
Right.
Yeah, isn't that how he kind of got into the industry?
Right.
Like now it's business casual and
right.
interviews with like YouTube influencers. Like, it's a little weak.
It's a little weak, but like I look at it as like... So I guess I'm trying to look at the argument of, is it this woman that came in and changed Howard, or did Howard change and she just kind of, and he brought her on to help facilitate the change to everybody else so he didn't look like the one who was changing. You know what I mean? Like, I think it all stems from him.
Oh, for sure.
Right? I mean, so like, it wasn't like
going to happen without his final say.
So I just think that he, you know, he brought somebody else to kind of handle the actual transformation for him. But he actually had that transformation already in his head. You know what I mean? This all came from...
Yeah, I think he read the book. He reached out to David Allen because he thought, wow, I can actually apply a lot of what I just read into my show. But maybe he's like, I actually need someone to come in and do it full time instead of me saying, hey, guys, I read a new book. Let's try this, and this new improvement. Like a total like audit of what they're doing.
Right.
Because they mentioned in the article that in this 2012 all-staff meeting, he pretty much berated them and said, we're not getting to the next level. You guys look like a bunch of homeless people. Like, what are we doing here? Basically. And I think
of the show, because I didn't start listening until it's funny that it was like 2011, 2012. I mean, I was always loosely a part of it, like listening to the show, but never like I am now to make a fucking podcast about it. But 2012 is when I started listening. So I really don't know the show well from like the 2007, 2008 to 2012 era. I know that's a lot of the Artie era, so I just listened to like the Sternthology, whatever they pretty much give me,
right,
on Sirius. So I don't like know, was it bad? Like was it like was the show kind of stagnant? Like did he have a point to bring somebody in?
I mean, not in my personal opinion. I like this. That was my favorite era of the show. It was early Sirius, Artie. I'm a huge Artie fan, but I think that brought that perspective, and we've talked about this off air and we may just make a whole episode about it, but I feel like the show just doesn't have like teeth to it. Like there's no internal conflict anymore. It's like Howard's like this god, and then everyone else is like lucky to even like talk to him,
terrified to challenge him.
Whereas like, and I was like again, a psychopath, so I'll just get bored in YouTube old clips. And man, the show is just so much more just cutting it up and just like freestyling, and Robin's getting in the mix, Fred, and they're making fun of Howard. Like now there's none of that. Like no one says a negative word, God forbid. Even, well, I guess we can get into it now. Like Richard Christie was quoted at like, he's like, I saw Howard on the street in New York, but I was so scared to go up to him. It's like, you've been working with him for like 25 years.
Right, you don't want to bother him. Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's become the culture. Whereas, and if you're probably crazy fans like us if you're listening to this goddamn podcast. So go back in YouTube, like early Sirius or already telling a story about Vegas or them fighting actually.
And them fighting
the
is what I miss. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I mean. That was real shit. You know, that was like real emotion. People were really pissed at you. When was the last good staff fight? I mean, with Howard involved.
Oh, with Howard involved? No, none. I mean, I'm thinking of Shuley and Brent maybe,
years.
Like, and then Ronnie gets all heated at people.
Even that, it's like, really, Shuley and Brent, like, that's half bullshit.
Right.
Like, Shuley's not even really believing what he said. We're talking about Shuley teases Brent about not swinging and questions his swinging lifestyle.
Yeah, there's nothing with. I mean, like the bottle of wine bit with like Robin and Howard was one of the funniest things I've heard. The Fred changing his name, they kept giving him shit, and then like Fred walk. Like, whenever like Fred and Robin,
then he would like blast back. Yeah.
Fred used to blast back all the time. He doesn't at all. So everybody's. See, for me, that doesn't. I know you said like the show doesn't have any teeth anymore. I don't necessarily fully agree with that. I still feel like there's enough for me to grab onto with the show how it is now, but I definitely miss that shit. But do you like so?
It's
okay,
like even when like I was going to mention this on our political thing, but even like something stupid with I'm a cowboy.
Oh, Mamet.
Mamet, yeah, my bad. I knew that.
Lamat.
Mamet Walker. He made like a freaking T-shirt that said Howard Stern comes again, #1. Then the back says like Hillary Clinton sucks or like suck it Hillary. And like Howard, you would have thought like he like killed his mother. Like that was the worst sin that could ever be done. It's like and like 10 years ago that would have been like no big deal. Like all right, we'll frame it and put it in the hallway.
Yeah,
like,
who gives a shit?
Who gives a fuck? Well, but maybe that was like maybe Howard had this Hillary interview in the works and was like, oh my God.
He's always said that. Yeah. He's like, so he's probably trying to protect that, at least in that instance. But I'm trying to figure out like, so, okay, so the staff fighting thing, I don't see how Marci has an effect on that necessarily with like Howard's.
But I think it's just the whole culture now. It's like business casual, like you're here to do a job.
Howard's the
like,
boss.
It's
you don't challenge the boss type of thing.
Well, I think Marci's the boss. I think they're scared in the room, to death.
Because nobody challenge. So the reason Robin or Fred doesn't challenge Howard anymore, how does that pertain to Marci? You know what I mean? Like, why is that? How
I think it's just the mentality of the show now. It's just more softer, like, and there'll still be occasional little beefs here and there, but I used to just love that. I mean, they used to have whole specials about staff fights, and I mean, there's been hundreds of them throughout the years. And yeah, you may have occasional little beef here and there, but and now there's all these things on the show of, oh, well, we're not supposed to talk about that on air. We'll talk about that after that. They never used to say that shit.
Well, the biggest thing was the Matthew Berry thing. I think we talked about this once, but the Matthew Berry, he was in studio.
So Matthew Berry, the fantasy football ESPN analyst.
He was part of the staff fantasy football league,
Emotional Friends League.
Yeah, he was in the studio with them, and they all kind of got into a fight. What was the fight? What was even over? I don't remember. Like
it was talking about. Or the original fight was like about fantasy football, and the core of it was that they wanted to switch the league back to an all staff.
That's right.
Get rid of Lisa, the porn star, whoever, Matthew Berry, and Michael Rappaport.
Right.
And so Matthew Berry was on the phone, and you can continue.
No, I'm trying to recall it as I'm talking about it. So
I kind of remember if you want me to.
Yeah.
So basically, Matthew Berry was on the defense. And live, when you listen to the show, he talked about, he goes, I know the rules. I know when I come on, there's certain things that I can and can't talk about. And that going out live, Howard's like, oh my God, we don't want people to think that we're screening these calls. And what are you talking about? You could talk about anything. What do you mean? Talk about anything. And Matthew Barrett, I know we're not supposed to talk about Marci. And just right away, Howard's like, you can talk about Marci. Talk about Marci right now. Marci's our COO. She's been on the show since 2012. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. But dude, you didn't mention her for the past 10 years. And now it's like, sure, you could talk about her. Talk about whatever.
Right.
And he specifically said, I'm not supposed to talk about Marci on TV. And then they blacked it out of the replay.
That's the craziest
even
thing.
A couple years ago, or like this year, I saw on Sternthology, and I think I texted you, and it was like fantasy football argument or whatever.
Right.
And sure enough, the Matthew Berry part just totally skipped out, like 15 minutes of the Matthew Berry part.
Why? Like, I mean, do you think she has that in her contract?
Brings back to this. It's like it's. Do you think that's kind of the point of this episode? Is why? Like, isn't this whole show about like pull the like you could see anything behind the scenes? We'll pull the curtain back.
Right. The boring answer for me is Howard really wanted her to come on board. She was like, okay, I'll come on board, but I don't want to be pulled into the staff shit. And it's like Howard probably had a choice where it's like, all right, I could either let this girl go because she doesn't want to be a part of the staff bullshit that we have in the studio, or I could bring her on and just like that, just kind of left alone. And I think that's probably, in my opinion, what happened.
Yeah, and I think to that point, I've heard Gary multiple times be like, well, you expect me to be the boss around here, but yet you just clown on me every single day and call me the village idiot baboon with huge teeth, and then you want me to conduct an internal staff meeting after the show and be taken dead serious.
Right.
So maybe to that point, he just is like, I don't even want to jeopardize her authority. She's the boss. Like, I guess if you do bring in a new boss, you're not exactly going to bring him in and start ripping into him.
That's true.
And I don't know. I just feel like the whole staff is like scared to death these days. Like even when they come in, it's like so like they're scared to like step outside.
Do you remember in LA when they came here? Like Gary was like, "Well, trust me, all the staff was read the riot act about being on their best behavior out in LA," and it's like that
why?
Didn't why? Why?
Is it that bad?
Yeah, right. Like so because they're going out there representing Sirius, so I'm sure they got the riot act read on them by Marci or someone under her.
And again, it's always that. We've talked about this off air.
Right.
You know who said that. It's like,
right.
Come on, man. Is this a Stern show or what?
Yeah. Yeah, like I can see how you can get wrapped up in it. But for me, and I also don't know as much because I don't read about it as much. I just look at it as like the most boring answers possible. It's like, yeah, she probably came on board, was like, don't involve me. So Howard probably made it a point to his staff, don't mention her. Or like keep her out of the bullshit.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of the two ideas are tied together of not only Marci and not being mentioned, but then also everyone kind of has acknowledged, even Howard's acknowledged that the show's changed.
Sure.
And so I don't, and to go back on an earlier point, I don't think people like change, especially something that they enjoy listening to or watching.
Right.
It'd be like a new actor on someone's favorite show and everyone just flipping out about, they love such and such that's already been on there. So I don't think any of that change for diehard fans is exactly welcome, let alone change that is symbolic of taking steps away from what they love about the show of uncensored, say whatever you want, anything goes, and now it's business casual, don't mention Marci. If you do, we're going to black it out of the episode.
See, again, devil's advocate, though, it's like we make it seem like it's now this completely watered-down product. I don't see it that way. I still feel like there's enough there to not make it – it doesn't feel that way to me. Now, is it the same? Obviously not. It's different. But I don't view it as a watered-down product, you know what I mean, or a lesser quality show than what it was. Do you?
I mean, I still like it. I still listen to every show.
Yeah, I just say it's different, but I don't say lesser quality of a show.
Yeah, I guess what makes me a little upset with all this is now it's just kind of another show. You'll still have some uncensored elements, but now you can kind of just get this shit in podcasts. And like, if you want to hear a long form interview, listen to the 100 long form interview podcast.
Right. Yeah. If anything, like now would be a time to revert back to the old ways because it's like, you're right. You can find this on any comedy podcast at this point. Every comedian has a podcast,
Right.
And
most of these people are on the press tour and they do all those other podcasts too.
Exactly. And so, you can find a celebrity on Joe Rogan for an hour and a half, 2 hours doing an interview. Now, is it going to be as good of an interview as Howard can do? I don't think so. But, you're right. There is a lot more content out there that can match what Howard's doing right now. Yeah.
In some specific instances, there was also, we did an entire episode, you could look back in the archives, about Wendy Williams. So to give you a little bit of context there, Howard was on the air live, and it was while he was promoting his book.
Right.
And I think it was before the book came out.
Mm-hmm.
And he caught wind. JD came over the intercom and said, hey, I think it was like happening live because I think she said it that same day. So he had no chance to listen or anything. And he's like pulling the clips as he's like, hey, just to let you know, Wendy Williams said something about you. I don't know if you should listen. And he's like, don't let me. Let me listen.
He's like, I'm in a bad mood. I don't want to listen to this. I remember
at first he kind of resists, and then he's like, all right, well, if you told me, just let me listen to it.
Right.
And I mean, it wasn't like the most negative thing in the world, but she basically said, oh, Howard's new book, I bet you he's just going to talk about his celebrity life, and Howard's Hollywood now, and he's not controversial.
Yeah, she's like basically saying, I miss playing into the Reddit,
like what we're saying right now.
Yeah, it's like, I miss the old Howard. Howard's now Hollywood. Right?
But the reason I said it wasn't that bad is because his reaction was like, he came back with like the fury of hell, and I think it was all of that build up of reading the shit about him and
Right.
him just like, and that now he finally had like a public figure to attach that to and like directly said it word for word what he's been reading about himself, and he just flipped shit.
Went fucking crazy,
Like,
dude.
went off on her for 45 minutes.
Called her a fucking bitch.
Everything
Cunt,
under
like,
the sun.
everything, man.
You just try to be me. You're not the
Right.
queen of all media.
You're nothing,
You're
you know.
nothing without me. And
I kind of loved it though.
and then all of a sudden, it's blacked out of every replay. You can't find it anywhere on the app.
Did he ever comment
And it's
on that?
Never.
I thought he did. I thought he had
No.
one little comment about it. Like,
Because
it's
I
like-
purposely had an ear out for it. No, there wasn't even like a call. They probably wouldn't have let a call screen go. Or maybe he did. Or maybe a caller mentioned they blacked it out. But it's
Yeah.
such fucking bullshit, man.
Right,
What
like,
happened to
like,
the Howard
talk
Stern show? No more bullshit
That part-
was the motto when
Right.
they came to Sirius.
that part, like, how do you not comment on it? How do you do that, block it out, and then pretend like it never fucking happened?
Right.
Talk about it. Like, come on Monday, be like, hey, I lost my cool.
Yeah.
You probably won't be hearing much. Even if he said, probably not going to play that much on Sirthology. I lost my cool. Apologies. You know, I
Or
I
even
lost
if he
my
said,
fucking-
you know what, I thought twice about it, and I'd
wasn't
rather
that-
just not have that out there. And
Yeah, he's like, because he could have easily said, I took JD's work. Like, I heard a couple clips. I didn't really listen to it. Once I listened to it, it wasn't that bad. I kind of went over the top for, you know, and then it's over and then done with. We're not having this conversation right now. But to black it out and then, or block it out and then that's it. But like so to come circle this back to Marci, did Marci do that or did Howard do that?
Well, according to everything, that specific instance, Marci straight told him to take it down. But is that just
Where
someone?
are these sources, though?
Yeah,
Is it just like-
exactly.
yeah.
I mean, who the fuck? So
Right?
were they in the editing deck. And,
Yeah, like how, like where do these sources come from? Because like I know that there was a couple things that Artie said about Marci, and I can actually take his word for it because he worked there and kind of saw some things firsthand, or some other.
And he gets a
former-
lot of like word from current staffers that like he
And I-
doesn't identify him, but he
I don't
talks
think
to current
I don't
staffers.
look at Artie as someone's going to make shit up just for just to get his
No.
name in the paper.
And
So-
what he was saying is that she had sex with Ben Bardo and Steve Brandano.
Oh, Artie said that?
Yeah.
Oh no shit.
Yeah. Yeah, so just to kind of source out what I've been talking about, the stuff about Howard bringing the staff in, berating them, Gary asking if this is my new boss, her being the COO. This is from the Wall Street Journal, so I mean I know everything's fake news now, but Wall Street Journal,
Yeah, at
Jesus
least-
Christ, there's some
all right,
validity
it's
there.
credible. Yeah.
So we're not just purely going on, like the chat rooms here and Stern Show Network as it used to be.
Right.
But-
But I didn't know Artie fucking said that she banged. Who was it?
Steve Brandano and Ben Bardo.
Wow. You think that's true?
Yes, I mean there's a lot of smoke for no fire.
Yeah.
Because and Artie's we're going to do an Artie episode here soon too. And like Howard mentioned, we're going to zoom in on these. I like to call them different characters involved in the show.
Howard mentioned you just call me Howard?
Did I?
I think so.
He's on my brain.
Sorry, that's a
We're
compliment.
just talking about him for 9 hours. Psychopath. But
yeah, wait. So do you? Did Artie work there whenever?
that's what I
Marci-
was going to say. Artie, yeah.
Did Artie leave before she got there? Or
Yeah. No, Artie was gone by now. 2012, he was gone.
But she came in 2011.
No, she started in 2012. He brought the staff in.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
like berated them without
he was already
without
gone.
them knowing who she was specifically. He said, "I'm going to bring someone in."
But
Apparently, he's getting texts from current staffers constantly. I'm sure he keeps in touch with some of them.
right.
But so to kind of finish that thought, Artie, when he was kind of like first getting back into podcasting 5 or 6 years ago, he was still kind of wrestling with his demons and hooked on a bunch of stuff. But he would kind of be the voice of these rumors that
Right.
are online, and he would just straight up talk about it on his podcast. And then there was even a time that Howard even recommented back on Artie and just like, you know what? Because he was coming hard after Howard.
Really? Like, what kind of stuff is he saying? Like,
Just like Howard, like
Same stuff
You
we
know,
were talking, like,
you basically
he saw-
made a bit out of my heroin addiction. Like you guys had to continue to play the clips of me calling off of work as I'm on my deathbed, and you guys just think it's hilarious that I'm calling off work every day, and you're playing the clips on the show of me like, in like heroin withdrawals.
right.
And basically Artie, and he's since walked that back and said, you know what, he's a
Like, I had
good
my own
influence,
shit. Yeah.
and he was trying to make the best of a situation. I put him in a bad situation. He hired a drug addict when he was just wanted a comedian. So
Right.
and I think with and Artie's been like almost a year sober now, and I'm sure he's done a lot of counseling and looked back and with some retrospective.
Right.
But all this to say that when he first came back on the podcast scene, he was coming hard at Howard, calling out Marci Turk, telling this Gary story, talking about how she's been sleeping with staff members, talking about how she put the new dress code in, made everything PC. The show sucks now.
This all came from Artie pretty much.
He like voiced it all.
Yeah.
Like this is all you can find, again, the Wall Street Journal, and there's a couple, there's like Us Magazine wrote an article. Obviously they're not going to talk about her like sleeping with staffers, but this all staff meeting, that's a pretty official thing that happened. That's been documented by many sources. And he kind of mixed that and the rumors and whatever text he's getting from current staffers and just like threw it out there for everyone to hear. And then there was a time during that where Howard actually, there was like callers that are like, hey, have you heard Artie's comments about you? And he kind of like took the high road and was like, listen, Artie, I don't want to go there. Like I've been asked if he's ever going to be back on the show. I would just rather not. I would just rather him live his life. I live my life. I would rather not kick up any old demons or any negativity. And I think now they're in a better place. And now Artie has a new podcast, and I've listened to all of them. He barely mentions Howard specifically, and if he does, and it's in a pretty positive light. But at the time, he's airing all this out about Marci and Jeremy, just changing everything. And, you know, with the Matthew Berry and the Wendy Williams and you just kind of put this whole picture together. And I think she's kind of the face of, oh man, I wish the Stern Show was this, or I wish it was still like they were at K-Rock, or when they first got to Sirius. And she's kind of become the PC influence of the show.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Do you buy into it? Like, do you buy into that it's Marci, or do you think that it's Howard and that's just she's the scapegoat?
No, I think so perfect example, Benji. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that now Benji's actually out of the studio and not really involved, where he talked for 20 years about wanting to kick Benji out.
Right.
So I think that's kind of a microcosm of, you know, he's like, man, I wish my staff dressed better. I wish, like, he's probably watching Letterman, and man, their staff, man, he gets his staff from Harvard, and you know, my staff's jerking each other off and holding each other's wieners while they piss, you know. And I think he always kind of referred to that, but then also, like, that's what we loved. We don't want to always watch a show that everything's buttoned up and perfect and everyone looks like a celebrity. Like, I want to see Richard pissing his pants, or like, you know, I want to hear those raw stories. And so I think he kind of saw all this, wanted to pivot, wanted to get these bigger A-listers in, which he has. He's landed probably more A-list celebrities in the past 5 years than all the other years. Right. And part of that's being on Sirius and having this long-form opportunity, whereas before he'd have to cut to commercial and do live reads on K-Rock and all that. But I think that she is now kind of that figure of, you know what, if Benji's late, just go to Marci's office. I don't want to be like, because Howard's, at the end of the day, is an emotional guy too. Right. He likes these people. He wants to provide them with work. He doesn't want to straight up fire someone. Right. I don't think there's been too many instances. I mean, we'll do a show on this, that some people just kind of disappear from the show, never to be heard from again. Right. But I don't think I think those are more like budget cuts and decisions like that. Whereas I think Marci is more like, you mess up, just go to him, don't even talk to me. And I think he can just kind of throw his hands up of, hey, that's not my job. Right. You know, I'm just here to host. I run this thing, it's my show, but when it comes to the X's and O's, like, I'm not going to sit here and check time cards and check like staff meetings to see who's attending and who's participating. Like, one thing, he's too old for that shit. He's too rich and famous. He's too busy. Where I think he was doing both for so many years. He's in the weeds. He's making staff decisions. He's also thinking about how to push the show forward, where now he's like, let me bring Marci and Jeremy on to do the X's and O's and just let me be the host. Right. But I think that also bleeds into the show of now everyone's scared to death. No one calls out. I can't remember the last person that's called Howard out. Yeah, you're right. There's been nobody to challenge Howard. I used to love when Fred would challenge Howard because it's the best. Fred has just turned into a. Artie used to call him a pelican to his face. So Artie got pissed that they're bringing in some girl who likes fat dudes, and he's like, "Well, what if I brought in chicks that like pelicans. I mean, you would never hear that.
Right.
Can you imagine like Sal saying that?
No, never. The person who ever challenges Howard the most, and he does it in the weirdest way, is Mehmet. Sometimes like whenever he challenged Howard on the commercial idea, and sometimes he'll like drop little things like, I don't know. Like I remember they played it not too long ago. I think it was last year for the Christmas party, and Howard was talking to Mehmet's girlfriend. And Mehmet was like, yeah, he's like, you started bragging about your paintings and stuff. And Howard's like, bragging about my paint? You know what I mean? Like, you remember that?
He
bit?
does, yeah. He calls him out.
He definitely calls him out on little things, but like, it doesn't go very far. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're right. Nobody really does that. Again, thinking about Marci, like, do you think it has, what she's done helped get those celebrity interviews and those A-listers? Like, do you think, did it work? Like, if this was their goal to clean it up and button it up a little bit, do you think that's the reason they're getting these A-list celebrity interviews? And like, they can now reach out to Gwyneth Paltrow's manager and be like, hey, I don't know how they pitch it, but like, things are a little different around here. Mm-hmm. We're more like a business. So if you want to come in here, we'll make sure that she's in a protected interview environment and it's not going to be, raunchy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you think it worked?
But also, it's like, before 2012, he had some pretty big interviews.
True.
I think he had Paul McCartney on multiple times.
Right.
Trump was on 30 times.
I think he could have done it on his own, is I guess
celebrity.
what we're saying. Like, he didn't have to have somebody come in to get those types of interviews. Because if that was his goal, to like do a long-form interview type show, mainly, I don't think he needed to do an overhaul.
Yeah, because and I think like Brad Pitt was on the show, Jim Carrey. I mean, he's had huge stars before 2012.
Right.
But I don't know. It's like these celebrities, I think they still kind of know what they're getting into.
Right.
So, and they know they're going to end up saying something they regret or saying something they didn't mean to say or talking about their sex life when they didn't think they would.
Right.
But I guess to your point, it's like, would that have mattered? So it's not like now, or maybe they just do. Maybe they just straight up discuss, we won't talk about this, and this. Maybe it's just much more of a structured and people trust that more.
Right. Yeah, I mean, maybe something to it. Because I mean, if that was Howard, I guess like I'm trying to like think of how this all works out. Like maybe Howard goes to Marci and Jeremy like, here's what I want. You figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah, and I think the style of people that they have on is different. We could talk about this on other shows, but to me, he just has like way less stand-up comedians in, and I've heard this pointed out, and it's really true. I mean, he used to constantly have
a lot of women
Louis
stand-up
and that.
He has,
it's the worst. He has fucking Chelsea Handler and
Amy Schumer.
Yeah, those are his two favorite guests in the world.
Yeah, but like, I mean, he was only had Bill Burr on once. And Bill Burr's like, you know what I mean? Like, so there's.
I mean, and even like, what about like up and comer like Chris D'Elia? Like,
yeah, like he can have.
A lot of like he had Sebastian Maniscalco on, and he acted like he was like just found him on the street.
Right,
the guy's been in comedy for like 20 years.
Right,
He's like
exactly.
Already has multiple specials. He's like, I found this new guy. I can't pronounce his name.
Right.
He pronounced his name, which I'm sure was part of the bit.
I will say that Howard's always gone on record to say he's like he doesn't watch stand up. Like he doesn't watch a lot.
Well,
he
said that recently in the past couple of years.
Yeah, like
but he always talks about Chris Rock's a genius.
Right.
Yeah, he has an appreciation for it.
Sure.
But so I think he just used to be more on the cutting edge of that, and now he's more like YouTube celebrities, or just even the type of guest I think has changed. Whereas before, like Chappelle would sit in before they when they were interviewing for Jackie Chair, before Artie was like full time, Chappelle would be in for weeks at a time.
Right.
And even like dumb shit, like he'd have like WWF guys on.
Right.
Like, he just went outside of that. And now it's just a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah, I get it.
The same guest you'd see on Letterman. Like you don't see like The Undertaker on Letterman, but he may give a cool like interview on the Stern Show.
I'm trying to think if there's a counterpoint to this, because I know there's a couple guests that I've seen recently and I was like, that's a different one. But
I mean, when he had that YouTube chick on,
which one?
Billie Eilish or whatever. Is she not YouTube? Is she just a young
She's
chick?
like one of the biggest stars in the world. You don't know.
I mean, if we're like in 7th grade.
Dude, she's like the number one like pop artist.
Yeah, but she's like 14, isn't she?
Yeah, I think she's like 18.
I think she's younger than that.
Maybe
but I don't know. To me, it's like I turn on the Stern. Oh, Billie Eilish is on the show.
Right.
But then again, it's like I still don't see him as like pulling in all these like. Okay, she's 18.
Yeah.
But I guess it's I guess it's also, does he want to keep appealing to his base that has been there since K-Rock and before that, or does he want those does he want that new audience? But to me, it's like I said, the new audience for these long form interviews is like not really there. I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh, I got to pay $10 or for the Howard package, I think it's like 15 or 20.
Right.
I got to pay $20 a month to hear these interviews. I mean, there's 20 long form interview shows now.
Right.
More than that.
Exactly. Yeah. But there is something, I mean, and every celebrity goes to say it, like, even if they've been interviewed 100 times on their press tour by, you know, not anymore, but like Pierce Morgan used to do that kind of interview, or like the actors, you know, for some reason, Howard's interview style and Howard's interviews always make a headline. So, yeah, you're not going to pay for it, but if you do love a celebrity, hearing them on Howard is going to be different. Not it's not going to be vastly different, but it's going to be a different interview than anything else you'd hear. So, I guess I can get it. You know what I mean? Like, I get how somebody would be more inclined to listen to Howard's interview as opposed to anything else they've done, even if they have the outlet to listen to it on a bunch of other
No, I get that, but I guess my point too is that those people were still coming in before 2012.
Yeah. I think your point is like there's no need to do an entire overhaul of the show to get these interviews.
Exactly.
Right.
I think he was maybe a couple tweaks, and maybe even he could have done behind the scenes stuff of how they approached booking guests, and maybe even if he did say, hey, we'll take a couple of these topics off the table, but the listeners don't know the difference. I don't know, it just kind of depresses me when I watch the app and I see Gary in like khakis and an oversized like blazer
in that tiny little office.
Yeah, exactly. There's like 3 interns behind him. He's like crouched down into the mic.
Right.
Marci's got like the penthouse suite, corner office, Manhattan.
So to kind of like tie this up, unless I see you have like 10 more notes there. I don't know what else you got on Marci over there.
I got a whole book.
The Marci Turk. Marci Turk comes again.
We could talk about, I mean, we could also talk about other kind of people we want to zone in on. Also, I was going to mention, we have an email. It's heynowhowardpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So if you have like topic ideas you want us to cover or just fan feedback, we won't take any of your feedback, but we'll read it and delete it quickly.
Hate on us,
but
and we'll read it on.
Yeah, send us some hate mail. We love that. At least someone cares.
Right. I'll send us some hate mail I'll do it myself. But I do like these little bits about just one single person. But to kind of put the final touches on Marci, do you think, I mean, obviously she's not going anywhere, so she's going to be there until the end, until Howard retires.
Yep.
And I don't see the show ever really going back to the way it was. This is kind of the way it's going to be until Howard goes off. Do you think she ruined it? I think she changed it, but I don't think she ruined it. Do you think she ruined it?
I mean, I could tell you if I pull up an old YouTube clip and listen for an hour, I do enjoy listening to when the show had that more edginess to it.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: when you pull up a YouTube clip, it's not the entire episode, or is it?
I mean, the clips will zone in on something that happened. It'll be like, Artie tells a story about getting a hooker in Vegas.
Right.
But it's like an hour and a half clip, so you end up hearing a lot of the show.
But don't you think, like, you could probably put a nice montage together if, like, YouTube clips from the 2012 era of, like, stories that we've, like, I mean, think about Bigfoot. You know, how hard we laughed at that. Or, like, and then Ronnie's stories from the beginning.
I guess I've really started noticing the past, like, 2 or 3 years. Or just, not necessarily the content, but I just hate that. Oh, we don't talk about. Oh, we already talked about this. Remember, don't bring that up on air.
Right.
To me, that's the biggest thing that bothers me.
Sure,
because that's the number one thing I love about the show, and now that's kind of been stripped away.
Right.
And there was even this stupid little prank call that Richard did, and he was giving like shout outs, and the whole basic premise of the prank call was to list an insane amount of people associated with the show.
Oh,
I want to give thanks. I want to say hi to my friend Robin.
Right. Robin's cat Yoda.
Yeah, exactly. And then it started getting like the leather weather lady, the original Bigfoot.
Right.
It
People
started
30
going
years
way
ago.
back. He listed like 100 names associated. It did not list Marci or Jeremy.
Telling,
it just fucking bothers me.
Yes.
I don't know why.
No, I mean, it's definitely
He was saying
fucking,
Scott the Pace.
Right.
Like, he was saying people that are not just directly involved, but behind the scenes,
See, for me, it doesn't fire me up, but I totally get why it would fire some. I mean, it is because it's fucking weird. If nothing else, it's just a weird, strange thing to go completely against what the show was about for so long, and then to just start censoring a single part of the show. It's weird, and you just want to know why or what the deal is. Like I said, I have a very boring answer to it, but I could see why, since there's literally no chatter about it whatsoever from the show. You're up to interpret it how you would, you know what I mean? There's nothing for us to go off of, so why wouldn't we start making up our own, theories about it?
Right, and that's the thing is, and he mentioned her at his birthday show. He said Marci Turk. I don't have the quote in front of me, but basically he said, if you're a fan of the Howard Stern show, you may not know her name, but you're a fan of her.
Right.
And that she's so influential. He's something about, you inspire me every single day. I mean, it was a pretty big hyperbole for a mid-30s or life coach.
Dude, can you imagine being especially at the time, if she's mid-30s now, she was late 20s.
Yeah.
Whenever that should happen. I'm not good at math.
Right.
We know that. So she was 7 whenever.
I think it was before she was born.
Yeah. But when she got hired, it's geez, man. And then one starts to start thinking, if she banged 2 guys on the staff, once she already had the job, did she bang anybody to get the job?
I don't know. I guess since we never hear anything about it, I guess
one can only assume.
Weirdos like us just assume.
Yeah, right?
When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me.
Hey, man, you've seen what happens to former staffers once they get off the show. Think about what's going to happen when the show's done, and all these staff members have probably stories galore. And what are they going to do? They're you know what I mean?
Maybe they'll come on the Hey Now Howard podcast.
Maybe. Look at the exclusive.
This could be our ticket to the top.
Mehmet Walker coming in and telling us all the juicy details.
His ad pitch.
Yeah, right? But, because they're not going to have an outlet to really talk about this stuff. They're going to be going on fucking, podcasts.
Oh, they're going full steam ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean with the old staffers?
I'm saying, what are all these staff guys going to do if they don't have, if they don't find another outlet?
According to Howard, as soon as anyone disassociates with them, they're homeless and
they're
hooked on every drug in the world a month later. I'm sure they'll find their way. But I guess this style now, there's a lot of tell-all styles of show. So that would be cool to hear a Ben Bardo or a Steve Brandano talk about what really went down during all this.
You think there's an NDA involved once Howard retires?
100%.
Me too.
1,000%. They probably already do have NDAs the day they get hired.
A little severance,
That's
NDA.
actually a really good point. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I bet you we don't, now that I think about it.
Right.
If somebody says, fuck it, I'm not signing it, that would be the greatest.
They just wouldn't get hired.
Wouldn't get hired again anywhere, but...
Right.
Someone like Gary doesn't really need to work after this. Could be all right.
Right. And even I don't know, Howard's so weird about people disassociating himself. He went ballistic on Ronnie recently for talking about moving to Vegas and being done. Right. And it's the dude's 70.
Yeah,
leave him alone.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Let him fucking go, dude.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
He's 71 or 78 or 68, 69. So 70. Yeah, 70 now. I mean, goddamn, let him go, man. You want him to just work for you till he dies? I guess the answer is yes.
That's a power ego trip, though. He's and a little bit of jealousy.
Nothing without me.
And a little bit of jealousy that he can just leave. How can you just leave this and not know what I'm going to do? How could you just leave me?
He's because I'm 70 and I've been working my whole life. Right. And now I got enough money to retire.
I mean, Howard does make some valid points. So it's you work 3 days a week and you're done at 2:00. I mean,
for sure.
This is the retired.
But he's 70 years old.
Yeah. This is what somebody you made the point. This is what somebody that retired would do.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, that's true too. But I get he doesn't want. He's just done. He's tired.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's
shit. Once you hit 80. I don't think he's going to be living that. I mean, the guy's out there drinking, partying all the time. I don't think he's going to have the most graceful.
Those are the guys that always end up living forever.
No, that's very true. But I guess I just mean how many? I guess besides that point, how many prime years does he have? So say Howard signs a 4-year deal. You want him to work till he's 75?
Right.
Let the guy go, man.
Yeah, let him go live his life.
People can live a life outside the show, right? Howie.
No, I'm telling you, that's a jealousy thing. Howard knows he probably is not going to. He's going to sign another.
And
one.
he's probably jealous that he can, like you said, he can just like, how could you not be on the radio?
Right.
How could you not have celebrities wanting
Howard
to
can't
talk to
grasp
you?
that. Like,
Like,
he's-
oh
yeah,
my
right.
God.
So
And maybe at the end of the day, that really is driving this. I mean, Howard's no spring chicken. You know, he could have easily retired 20, 30 years ago and still had a huge career.
right.
And I just don't think that he wants to be out of that. He just wants that voice.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't want to just sit at home and yell at the TV. He wants a microphone.
Exactly. Yeah, he needs that kind of outlet. He needs that attention. I mean, that's what he talks about. He needs to fill that void.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, I'm so upset about this Marci Turk thing. I'm just gonna still listen to every show and
That's the
make a
thing.
podcast.
Dude,
about
you're very tempered and mild compared to some of these Reddit people that want to burn her at the stake. So,
Oh yeah. There's like a YouTube video of someone I think I sent it to you. It's like Howard with that birthday shout out to Marci, but then it like they super altered his voice to make it like sound demonic. And it's like,
God.
Marci Turk,
oh yeah, you did send me
you
that.
love
You
Marci.
sent me that with a text saying,
Jesus Christ.
"You're like, I thought I was a psychopath. Whoever made this is truly gone. You know who fucking made it is probably Imran Khan.
That's right.
Oh,
Imran Khan. He that's another person that disappeared quickly.
He started mentioning Marci.
Yeah, he did. You're right.
He started mentioning Marci.
He was all
gone.
about Marci.
I mean, he definitely.
Well, he
like,
said like I'll bang your
yeah, he started
daughters
saying
or
some fucked
something.
up
He
shit
said
about
some
his daughters.
some messed up
so
stuff.
It could have been any of those things, but he also mentioned.
But I'm
Marci.
sure that didn't help.
Yeah, right.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. He straight up called. And I think even, you know what? There's even a clip on YouTube of someone taking the difference of him calling in, mentioning Marci, like on the second half of the call, and then what actually went out on air. Oh, I know what it was. Old Imran Khan was like periscoping live as he
they
called
dumped
in.
his call.
Yeah, and they talked about Marci for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then when you hear it back on the playback, only that part's cut out.
Oh shit! So they dumped hit the
Yeah.
dump button on him, like basically. yeah.
Well, on the, I think there's
On
like
the
a
live
delay.
thing, yeah, like a
even
delay.
even live, there's like a minute delay,
Oh, okay.
minute and a half. So, and yeah, and Imran sitting there with like selfie style video recording him on the phone talking,
right.
and you clear as day hear them talking about, and it was kind of that same conversation. Oh, this must be Marci Turk, and what are you talking about, Marci Turk? Marci has nothing to do with this show.
Right.
And sure enough, it never went public.
Fucking crazy though, you know.
It is
So,
indeed, my friend Tyler.
That's
it
a
is.
tight leash that she has on that. If that's the case, man, because it's like.
That's what I'm saying. You can't. It's not even like, hey, let's not go there. It's just you mention her, it's blacked out.
Right.
He mentions her once in the book, in his new book, Howard Stern Comes Again, and it's very brief, and he just basically gives her a
leaves it open
shout
for
out.
like conspiracy theory. Did they bang and then now it's like that sensitive so that she can't be met? You know what I mean? So like,
Who knows, my friends?
you know what I mean? So it's fucked up.
Let's make a podcast about it.
We should. It's a good idea.
Speaking of which, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend, 5-star. Give us everything you got, people.
Yeah, please.
We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. Just listen to the goddamn thing. If you don't want to listen, just play it for your cat in an empty room and just give us those plays still. We'll take anything we can get.
It's on a loop. Go insane.
Yeah, my man, we better wrap this one up there, eh?
Yeah, I'm tired. Tired talking about Marci Turk. I feel like one of these Reddit trolls now.
I'm Marci'd out.
I know, I'm Marci Turked out. Dude, let's post this thing on Reddit and just have them like a feeding frenzy about it.
Oh, this would be the number one
Like
topic.
piranhas.
But hey, thanks for coming by the Hey Now Hard podcast, live from Los Angeles, California. My name's Daniel Coyne.
I'm Tyler Fortad. Make sure you hit him with the high.
Bye for now.
He's as bad as can. He knows he's the